You know, it's pretty incredible how some warnings, even if they're thousands of years old, can feel like they were written just for us, right now. Well, we're about to dive into one of those. It's this incredibly sharp, timeless warning about the huge danger of confusing what something looks like with what it actually is.
So the whole thing kicks off with this really stark command, beware. It's not a suggestion, it's an urgent warning. But who are these teachers of the law? And what on earth makes them so dangerous? Well, to figure that out, we've got to look at the image they were so carefully projecting. And it turns out the real danger is all in the performance. The very first thing we're warned about isn't some secret hidden action. Nope. It's about how these people present themselves in public. It's all about the show. It all starts with the visuals, right? The flowing robes. That's not just clothing. It's a costume designed to signal importance. The respectful greetings in public, getting the best seats at events, the places of honor at dinners. These aren't just little perks. They are very deliberate, very visible signs of authority, all designed to make people trust and admire them on sight.
So what's really going on here is basically a public relations campaign. The entire goal is to build this brand of being completely respectable, completely trustworthy. They look like the pillars of their community, you know? The kind of people you'd trust with anything. But this is exactly where the warning starts to have some serious teeth.
Because we all know that behind every great performance, there's a reality backstage. And in this story, the gap between the public show and what's happening behind the curtain is, well, it's absolutely devastating.
And here it is. This is the heart of the whole deception. On one side of the scale, you have all this public honor, the fancy robes, the respect, the VIP treatment. And what's on the other side? A single, horrifying action that just blows it all away. They devour widows' houses. The entire performance is just a mask for predation. Now, devouring houses obviously isn't literal. They weren't literally eating buildings. It's this powerful, gut-wrenching metaphor for causing complete financial and social ruin. In that culture, widows were some of the most vulnerable people around. They'd lost their protector, their provider. So these so-called leaders were using their spotless reputations to get close to these defenseless women, only to completely betray that trust for their own personal gain. It's just the ultimate betrayal. And it's not random. It's a cold, calculated strategy. Step 1. You build the brand. You make sure you look honorable and trustworthy. Step 2. You use that public image to get access to people who are in a vulnerable spot. And step 3, once you're in, once they trust you, you take advantage of it. It's a playbook for using power not to help people, but to consume them. And here's the final, just unbelievably cynical detail. Even their religious acts are part of the con. The long public prayers, they're not about devotion. The text is crystal clear. They do it for a show. It's the last piece of the costume, that final layer of fake piety they use to hide what they're really doing. So what happens when this level of hypocrisy gets called out? Does anyone notice? Well, the text doesn't leave us hanging. It gives a very clear, very final verdict. That performance, no matter how good it was, has been seen for exactly what it is. And there is absolutely a consequence for using a mask of goodness to do evil things. And there you have it. The judgment is just absolute. Not just punished, but punished most severely. It seems to imply that the punishment is directly tied to the crime. The greater the public trust you violate, the more severe the consequence. The higher the pedestal, the harder the fall.
Okay, so why does any of this matter to us, right now, thousands of years later? Well, it matters because this whole dynamic it's describing, this performance of authority, it's absolutely timeless.
So what can we pull from all this? I think there are 3 huge lessons. First, authority can be faked. It can be just a costume somebody puts on. Second, public praise and awards, they tell you nothing about a person's actual character. And maybe most importantly, the real test of leadership isn't how it's praised by the powerful, but how it treats the powerless. Which, of course, leaves us with a massive question for our own time. In a world that's just saturated with perfectly crafted images, in our politics, in business, all over our social media, how do we get better at telling the difference between someone who is genuinely worthy of trust and someone who is just putting on a really, really good show? That's the warning that's as relevant today as it was back then.